Hi guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV and welcome back to another Friday night social. Today is the 22nd of May and we've got our usual guests on. And first off, Karl in Washington, DC. How are you, buddy?
Hi Andy, I'm good. I hope you're well.
How's your week been?
It was difficult. Tough week for us. Tough week for me.
Why's that, mate?
Well, very close friend of mine, got COVID-19. She's okay. She's doing well. So I had to cook something for her, drop it at her doorstep. She picked it up. So my thoughts are with her at this moment. But yeah, it's been a tough week for me in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, Alan over in Melbourne. Oh, I see a nice little something there over your shoulder. What's that?
That's the Premier League trophy, mate. I've got a mini-sized Premier League trophy, 3/4 size. So I thought it'd be a nice addition, as it's only got a few weeks left. I hope we're maybe full time. We don't know yet, but we'll see. We'll see. So there we go. But yeah, Melbourne got the weather's turned. It's gone colder down here now. But difficult week, still quite quiet. So yeah, it's a difficult week, still quite quiet. Work's quiet, and not a lot of people out on the streets in the city centre. Pretty quiet.
Martin, how are you, mate?
Not bad. Busy week.
He's not bad. He's Martin.
Busy week. Been working and been doing the garden as well. So my garden's starting to look nice, my front and back. You know, I've got a really good family who like to chip in and do it. Stop it.
You can't say that after we just gone, ooh.
You know,
so your man garden's had a good trim front and back.
It's already one of those streams for Martin.
why is it every time I'm on camera this happens?
2 minutes.
He always lowers the tone, doesn't he? Always lowers the tone.
Why did you
need a strimmer? I've got artificial grass, so I don't.
Oh, right.
All right. Grow back there.
Sounds of a jazzle.
I was going to say, is it the Martin Vajazzle? Is it the Majazzle?
Oh, God.
Bless him. Anyway, Tom, how are you, buddy?
I'm okay. Yeah, just been this same old week for me. I've had to take a few days off working out because I did my back in. But yeah, apart from that, I'm all right.
Good man. Good man. Chris, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. Had a fairly quiet week. I cut my own hair today. It's gone all right, I think.
I don't know. We'll be the judge of that. What was everyone? Oh, actually, no, it's not too bad.
Good job. Very
I
impressed.
can't see with the light bouncing.
Get him off. Yeah, but yeah, it's been a decent week, mate. Yeah, no negative apart from the car won't start, but we'll get that sorted when we need it.
Yeah, well,
everything fine.
It's one of those, isn't it? You have to keep starting your car, otherwise the brakes seize up and all sorts of things. Ryan,
I've got things going on in my head now.
Oh, you've got lots of things going on.
Yeah, you've got lots of things.
So somewhere at someplace I definitely don't want to be.
You're looking to trim some more people's gardens, man.
Yeah. Ryan, how are you, mate?
Oh, I'm a lot better after that last segment with Martin. I'm a lot better after that. It's
you had a good
brightened my day.
You had a good week, mate?
I not done much. Went out to the shops today. Got some stuff to drink, some bread. Pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, that's not bad for you because it's normally only Sunday and Monday you go out, isn't it? So you've been out.
Well, no,
you've been out on a
this
Friday.
This week it was Sunday and Friday.
Oh my lord! Change your 2 days up.
Exactly.
I've been hanging around on any riversides and all that.
Only with my banjo, Martin, as you'd like to put it. Take my banjo down to the riverbank.
We're not going there. We've had front and back gardens. Now we're into banjos and stuff like that. So we'll leave it there. Anyway,
car engine seized up.
This is part one of the Friday Night Social, and tonight the first topic we're going to discuss is obviously earlier this week it was announced that the appeal hearing is going to be starting on what we think is the 8th of June, could run until the 10th of June. And this is obviously the CAS appeal. And there was an article released earlier this week in The Athletic. And just to give everybody who's watching this, if you are not quite familiar with it, I'm just going to read just a few paragraphs from there, just as a bit of a recap. And clearly it said the Manchester City's Court of Arbitration for Sport appeal against their Champions League ban was complicated even before the prospect of a hearing via video conference call was raised, having been found guilty by UEFA of artificially inflating sponsorship agreements and hit with a 2-year ban and a £25 million fine. City once again protested their innocence and vowed to clear their name. City say they have, in quotes, comprehensive body of irrefutable evidence in support of its position, which will presumably be part of their appeal. There are also a number of procedural complaints the club are likely to raise, such as the fact that UEFA's own statutes preclude them from investigating previously settled cases. Remember, City and UEFA agreed a prior punishment in 2014, and from prosecuting any breach that occurred more than 5 years prior. UEFA's investigation considered breaches from 2012 to 2016. City have always maintained that the information UEFA used as part of their investigation came from internal emails hacked by football leagues, and it has been suggested that evidence obtained illegally would not be admissible. But is this really the case, which is what the questions, and the Athletic sort of article goes through lots of different questions, and it says, can City prove UEFA's investigation was flawed? So I'm gonna read just one more little bit of this, and there are some other questions that I might come back to during the conversation. So as a preemptive CAS appeal in November, which was dismissed because UEFA had not at that stage announced a decision that could be appealed against, Man City made a number of arguments they are likely to return to this summer. Amongst those in UEFA's investigation process was beset by leaks, something that CAS admitted was, in quotes, worrisome. If you remember the statement that was made by UEFA and CAS, they did say that the leaks were a worrisome part of the investigation, even if they did not feel it fully undermined the process at that stage. John Shea, who was advised Premier League clubs on FFP appeals at CAS for law firm Lewis Silkin, says, in quotes, City will try to claim that UEFA adjudicatory chamber was not independent or impartial when determining the case, just to try to cast doubt in the CAS panel's mind regarding the decision. However, UEFA's club financial control body, the CFCB, is actually deliberately set up to be independent. But what CAS will do, despite City's various arguments, they will consider all the evidence and all the arguments from both parties, or basically start afresh and reach its own decision based on the arguments of this evidence. So that's the first sort of point of it. So I'm going to come to Chris first. Chris, what are your thoughts this week when we heard, because nobody was sure, we were all sort of waiting, going, is this going to drag on? Is it, what's going to happen obviously with Champions League? Because we know UEFA have said they want the Champions League sorted ASAP, which you can understand why, because it does affect next season's campaign. And then we didn't know, because obviously CAS are under lockdown. There's no way that they can have a face-to-face discussion, so it is probably going to be by video panel. But City did say that they wanted this done as quickly as possible as well. So City are not trying to drag this on. Well, it was announced that the 8th of June is going to be the appeal date hearing with CAS. However, I'm not sure how that's going to be done, whether it's going to be a video conference call or whatever. We'll wait and see. Could take 2 or 3 days. What are your thoughts when that came out earlier this week?
I think it's in the best interest of everybody that it's done as early as possible. I think for City, definitely, I can't see why UEFA would want it continuing, or any of the clubs that can be affected if the ban gets upheld. Then it's got to be the best thing that it does get dealt with as soon as possible. And, you know, transfers for City, what the implications for City are massive, really. If it's a 2-year ban and that gets upheld, I think a 1-year one we probably could cope with, but 2 years is going to be a massive thing. And I think it'd be good to actually draw a line under the whole affair, really. It's this constant sort of negativity towards City. As a fan, for me anyway, it gets very tedious because and I go back to your thing on the Arsenal channel where fans readily will talk about City and the stuff that we supposedly have done, but have no, they haven't a clue why we're there, other than we've apparently overspent, but they don't know the ins and outs of it. So for the whole club, for the fans especially, to get this done and dusted, it's a good thing. However, if we lose, it could be just the beginning of a very long, drawn-out process. If City decide to take UEFA on all the way through the courts and everything, so we'll see. But if we win it, does that mean that UEFA will continue to harass us? We seem to be, the team to pick on. Whether no one backs us up in the press, nobody apart from Martin Samuel, but nobody else really backs us up. The British media are not behind City in this at all. So it'd be interesting to see. It was interesting to see Ceferin as well this week, distancing himself from the award, and also his comments about FFP needing revising. And I don't know if you saw Arsene Wenger yesterday as well, also saying that FFP in its current state is not good for teams who aren't part of the cartel, basically. He never said in those words. So, interesting times. And if FFP does get revised, it'll be interesting to see what the cartel clubs do. Will they threaten to break away again, or will they want input to protect themselves? So, as far as CAS is concerned, I'm glad it is starting early.
Okay, over to Martin.
Well, as you saw the other day, I did a vlog on it. I think it was always going to be going down this road in terms of getting done early, because, like I said the other day, I think if it wasn't going to be done early and we were going to leave it, and City eventually got found out to be not guilty and they banned us out of the Champions League for a year, City could have took UEFA to the cleaners on that for loss of revenue. As you put as well, Andy, if, say, for example, De Bruyne left because we got a 1 or 2 year ban and then we get found out not guilty, City could sue UEFA for so much money. And I think that's part of the reason why it's now 8th, 9th and 10th of June. Unfortunately, what I did see was on Twitter and everywhere else on social media was the exact reaction which I thought we'd get off all the other fans, that we're going to buy our way out of it and everything else. So the way I view it, whether we're guilty or not guilty, we're going to be guilty in everyone's eyes because we're not going to win. I think CAS personally will end up sending this back to UEFA. I don't even think CAS will make a decision. I think this will get sent back to UEFA for UEFA and City, or in UEFA's eyes, to try and negotiate a deal. I think City will stick 2 fingers up at that and go, no thanks, we'll see you in the highest court in the land, and we'll rip FFP apart. And I think with Ceferin's comments, I think he's scared of that. And I think that's why now this little rejig of FFP is now going to happen. Because I think deep down, UEFA know what's going to happen. I already think they know what's going to happen. I think they're determined to do City no matter what. So I think they expect City to go as far as they can with this. Wenger's a funny one. Wenger's, he's quite happy to have FFP changed. If anyone remembers back, Wenger was the biggest critic and the biggest moaner of City buying players. I remember the Nasri thing.
We stole them off. Yeah,
he bitched and moaned about that for ages. So, it just shows people are two-faced. They really are. But my honest opinion is I don't think CAS will make a decision. I think it'll get sent back to UEFA.
Well, I mean, you hit on a point there about FFP and the new rules and regulations that might come in. They clearly are not going to do anything until this CAS appeal has been heard, because they can't suddenly now change the rules on FFP whilst we're still under investigation at CAS. So, I mean, but that is something that they will look at without a shadow of a doubt. Karl in Washington, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, Andy. Yeah. So there are two parts of this issue that I find interesting. So part one is, in my opinion, CAS is supposed to look at or arbitrate for both parties, right? Which is come to some agreement between both parties, right? Between UEFA and between Man City. That's the definition of arbitration. It's to settle or to find what's going on. But I think if you look at the process aspect of this, you look at the double jeopardy aspect of this, right? You've been charged with an offense years before, you've been charged again for that same offense. That's double jeopardy. Shouldn't be admissible in a court of law or in an arbitration court. You look at the fact that the evidence that they're presenting is hacked, stolen, inadmissible in a court or in an arbitration. You look at the fact that the underlying FFP has been found to be unjust, not by just Man City, but by not suffering, but also by Arsene Wenger, the FIFA's global development president, if you would.
Yeah.
And then you have the issue of the independence of UEFA trying to investigate and charge a member for breaching the rule, right? So there is no independence there. So the process itself, for me, given all that, should be back to UEFA or throw it out, and it's null and void. Now, the part of me that is cynical says that CAS, UEFA, FIFA all know what's going on, and they're all going to just, take this as an example, right, to other clubs and charge City as guilty. That's the cynical side of me, right? That says, and I told you this the other day, I said, I don't trust CAS or UEFA to be fair and balanced with this issue. If they're going to be fair and balanced, you cannot use stolen evidence as evidence against a plaintiff. You can't do that. It's inadmissible. You cannot have double jeopardy, a crime that's been committed before being retried again. You can't have that. But
well, just on that point there, because obviously you've raised two massive big, the crux of the whole thing. Going back to the article I started off this part one talking about was the article in The Athletic, and I said it raised numerous questions in there to some legal representatives who are familiar in this field. And one of the questions was, can hacked or stolen emails form a valid basis for punishment? And this guy, Shea, said, in quotes, it's possible that City will argue that the Football League's evidence, which obviously UEFA relied upon to charge City, is inadmissible as it was obtained by unlawful means. But there have been many previous cases where CAS have admitted evidence sourced by unlawful means. So City might raise the argument, but I would expect CAS to admit the evidence. Flanagan, which is another one, legal representative, concurs, adding UEFA does have broad rights to collect its own evidence anyway, and subsidiarily to that, even if it's using the Football League's information in line with prior CAS cases, it is likely to establish very broad rights to use the evidence that it has been able to acquire. So they're basically, two lawyers are basically saying that they believe that CAS will admit that evidence, stolen, hacked, leaked, whatever you want to call it, we know it was hacked, but that they will hear it in the appeal process.
But here's a counter argument to that, Andy. Wasn't it last week allegedly that the FIFA president Infantino was allegedly assumed to have done something wrong, and it was hacked, stolen emails that were used against him? And what did they say? Not admissible in a court of law.
Well, he's on the inside, isn't he?
Right. So ergo, my point about the unfairness and the bias and the downright cynicism and even allegedly corruption that's happening against this particular issue. Yeah. I beg to ask the question, right? If a group from the US, an owner from the US, let's say Silver Lake owned Man City, right? And they're all a particular gender, a particular demographic. If they own this club, would this happen to that club, to our club? Absolutely not.
Probably not, no.
So there's a deep underlying current behind this, in my opinion, that's not going to get washed away by CAS arbitrating either for UEFA or not. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're trying to send a message, in my opinion.
Okay, some good, strong.
I think that CAS is going to rule in favor of UEFA in this case. That's what I feel, because of this issue.
Okay, I'm going to come to Alan.
Well, I first things, I'm glad it's the 8th of June for 3 days. We won't get a decision at that point because they'll go away for a few days and think about what they want to do. So it's more likely to be the middle of June before we actually get a verdict. That's the first thing. Regarding neither side, UEFA and City can afford to lose. Yeah. UEFA, because they only make profit once every 4 years. This year they're relying on the Euros. That's not happening until the year after, and the Champions League's it's just not going to happen now with the quarantine rules. So it's a situation where either side can't afford to lose. City on the face of it'll put City back by 5 years. The consequences of City losing this and getting 2 years, there's a lot of impact there. And the argument says, if we do lose in 2 years and it's cost us money, and the money it's cost us, who's to say Fran Siviero's job's safe? Because someone's head's got to roll if we lose this, because that means we're guilty. So the implications of this, I'm glad it's going to be put to bed after this. And regarding hacked and stolen emails, each country have different rules. So wherever the CAS court is, I think is it Switzerland? I'm not sure. They have different rules, and I've read through quite a few of their cases that they've done in other sports as well as football, and sometimes they have used stolen documents and emails that they've received. So it depends. In the US, the rules might be different. In the UK, the rules might be different. But in Switzerland, they can do. But even if, let's say, they threw them out, they'll still know where to point the finger and ask questions about, because they've read the emails already. So they're still going to point and ask questions. If you did this, you did that, you did this. You know where to point the finger and where to press City in certain situations. They've got to get over 2 questions, and that's what they're being charged with. Not anything else. It's not about FFP. It's the 2 questions: whether they can prove unanimously that we have done everything that is right and prove what they're saying is wrong. And after that, if that happens, then then we are proved innocent, and then we can move on. But I just hope we don't get pressed, because any court case is 50-50. It is 50-50. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, on that point there, you said about proving the 2 things, and one of the questions back in the article was, can City argue that they have been treated unfairly? And in there it says proportionality has been a big factor in previous CAS appeals against UEFA punishments, with certain clubs successfully arguing that others have been let off lightly in comparison. Shear, the lawyer, says, I fully expect City to argue that the sanction of 2-year ban is disproportionate. The problem, I think, for City in respect of proportionality is that the breaches here do appear to be more serious, especially given that it's alleged that they have deliberately overstated their income in order to get around the regulations. And also, this is where I think the second breach, for failing to cooperate with the investigation, is likely to be an important factor when it comes to the question of proportionality of the sanction, because you can see how UEFA will say that both things justify a 2-year ban. Flanagan, the other solicitor, says the facts are so idiosyncratic to this particular case, because it's not just that City have allegedly overspent and perhaps massaged the figures a bit. It's all the things that go around that. It's the alleged misleading of UEFA. It's the extent to which the figures are alleged to have been massaged. So I think it might be difficult for City to establish that they have been treated unfairly compared to clubs in similar situations. And then I guess in UEFA's favour, there is the general duty of cooperation for the clubs to subject to FFP. So, for example, UEFA might say, OK, some of the points might have been time barred, but nevertheless, there was a duty of cooperation which you failed to adhere to. So you've got 2 lawyers there who are independent individuals looking at this case from afar. and really sort of coming down on the side of everything that we've read and everything that we think. These are two professionals in this area are basically sort of siding on the fact that we could seriously be done for this. They're thinking that City might struggle.
Well, I think they will struggle because the money they're saying that came from Etihad, unless they've got physical proof that that is the case, it's going to be very, very hard to get around that we have done that. Considering the person that was responsible, the old CFO, is no longer there, that was dismissed just after this, is probably responsible for enable that to happen. It's going to be very difficult.
It's by the sounds of it, the more I read into it, I'm thinking. I mean, well, I'll come back to another question at the end with, well, to finish off this section about what could happen afterwards. But Ryan, I know normally financial issues are not your thing. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think I've been pretty confident since the start of this that there's pretty much no chance that this would stay at 2 years. I think I've argued that point on Twitter with many a Liverpool fan, mostly, as they're the main culprits of that on social media, just bring that up.
We're jealous.
Well, yeah, it's kind of ironic for a club that have also failed FFP, but
tell them that.
Well, oops. So I think I don't really know, because I've been confident since the start this would get at least halved, at least, because I think the only reason it was 2 years was just so it would get lowered to a year rather than completely thrown out by CAS. But I think in a way I would rather I'd rather that it stayed at 2 years after the appeal and we just went after UEFA rather than win the appeal and then just kind of be like, right, we'll just let UEFA kind of get away with this. We've won our appeal. It's been thrown out. We're not banned from Europe. I'd rather we just continue. Well, ideal scenario is it gets thrown out. We win our appeal, and then we continue to go and fight UEFA over FFP overall. But I think a good compromise to that would literally just be lose the appeal, but then just go after UEFA.
Okay.
I'm not really. I don't have the greatest knowledge on the how it would all work in court, really. So I'm not overly sure on how that would work, but.
Okay, so let's imagine this then, Tom.
Yep.
Let's imagine CAS. The appeal we know is going ahead on the 8th of June. We'll wait and see if it does, but allegedly that's when it's booked in for. Let's imagine UEFA have the adjudicatory chamber, who are the ones who have set out the whole charges and basically been judge and juror on this, and they've said 2 years. In the light of, well, if we give them 2 years, like Ryan said, if we give them 2 years, they might come to an agreement on one. Blah blah blah. City might do. City might actually go, all right, we'll take it. It doesn't sound like they will, but let's just imagine City turn around and go, no, bollocks to that. There's no chance we're going to accept 1 year. We're going to fight you all the way. So at the end of this, CAS say, well, I'll tell you what, you go back to UEFA and you deal with UEFA. We think 1 year is probably fair, or you go back and negotiate with UEFA. We know that the Champions League they're desperate, UEFA, to get the dates going for the Champions League and everything else, and the end of the Premier League season. Where does that leave City?
It's interesting because it'd be hard for us to continue with our plans without knowing. We're based on a club who gets quite a lot of funding from the Champions League, which funds quite a lot of the wages and the stuff from for the players. So I'm happy that it is going to happen the 8th of June. Like Alan said, we won't get a decision till the middle of June, but I'm glad that it's going to get sorted, so they can sort of have a plan of which way they're going to go. So if we do get the 1 year, at least they'll have some sort of idea of how they're going to move forward. So I guess if we do get a year, we go back to UEFA and we try and get it taken away from us, but. It's one of those. I like I've said to you all along. I'm really confident that will prove everybody wrong. But hearing those lawyers, there's a slight worry about it now. Where what happens if it does happen, and what happens if we do get the 2 years? What's going to happen when we move forward? So yeah, we just have to wait and see what happens. Really.
I mean, the thing is that you would imagine. I mean, from what you can read, and it might just be, hot air from City side, but you can imagine that. CAS go, we think 2 years is unfair, maybe one's acceptable, go back and negotiate with UEFA. And City will either then go, no, I'm not negotiating with UEFA. I
would be very disappointed if they went back and did negotiate a year with UEFA. I'd be so disappointed with that.
What for them to negotiate to accept a 1 year ban?
I would be so disappointed if the club went and did that. And I don't think they will, based on how it's been going about. If they did.
Sorry, I just need to clarify what you were saying there. You would be disappointed if City went and negotiated a 1 year ban and accepted a 1 year ban. All right.
So would I. That happened, and I would much rather they took 2 years and then went and fought FFP.
But the question I was trying to get to is the fact that if we don't accept a result, whether that be Casco, 2 years is Casco go to the UEFA and go 2 years is unacceptable. We think it's disproportionate. So we think 1 year is probably acceptable, but you'll have to go back and we'll throw it back because they might do this in the current climate. They haven't got time to be delaying this. There are outside pressures because UEFA want their Champions League to be resuming and everything else like that. They could throw it back to UEFA and say to UEFA and City, you've gone and thrash this out yourselves. Now, City can either go, no, I'm not taking a 1 year ban. I am going to fight this in the highest court, which is the European Court of Human Rights. But when will that happen? And what will happen is we are currently banned from the Champions League next season. So we are currently banned on the charges.
And the situation with, if we take 12-month ban, that to me tells me that we've accepted guilt.
Well, yeah,
that we've done things wrong, right? But that the caveat to that is that the Premier League will then look at information about the figures that they've sent to the Premier League, and if that is the case, points deduction, possible trophies being stripped, it's catastrophic for the club. I don't think they can afford to accept even anything.
So this is the thing, is that are we talking, and let's take our Man City shirts off here, are we saying that they won't negotiate at all costs because they are guilty and they're more worried about what could happen with the Premier League and points deductions and trophies and things like that? Because let's face it, I've said it right from day one, if we're guilty of committing something that is against FFP or against the rules and regulations of the UEFA, then we deserve to be punished, regardless of what it is. And if that's 5 year ban, that's a 5 year ban. It's whatever. But what I'm saying is, City surely can't go at it from a point of view going, well, we'll have to appeal it because we could get a Premier League. Either City know what they did is what they've done is not what UEFA claimed to be, or they don't. And they might use we'll just go all in. Let's throw all our chips on the table and go all in. Well, at the end of that 12 months, in 12 months' time, we could be looking at trophies being deducted, points being deducted, banned from UEFA for Champions League for 2 years, which means then the add-ons to all of the pressure of all of this is the likes of Kevin De Bruyne or others and going, well, I ain't having the 2 years without Champions League football, and I'm not. So is it really, City do honestly believe that they can win this appeal because it's fact and it's true that we are being absolutely done by UEFA? Or are they going to go down the route of throw all our chips on the table because we've got nothing to lose, even though we know we're a little bit guilty?
At the end of this, Andy, I would love to be able to see the so-called evidence that we've got, because the last thing I want to happen more than anything is the club to lie to the fans.
Yeah.
And if they have lied to us, which is the most important thing to me, that means we're labelled cheats forever. That hurts more. That hurts more than any monetary fine or any ban. And if they have lied to the fans,
I'll come to you in a sec, Karl.
Then people's heads need to roll. That's it. Simple.
I want to be very clear here. We're going down this rabbit hole. The club have said it's absolutely false, and until they can prove otherwise, it's false. Right? We have no evidence to say we did it. If they said it was false, it is false until they can prove otherwise. Now, we know UEFA's history, right? They have not always been clean and been clear with such allegations in the past. This is a takedown, in my opinion. This is a takedown.
Shakedown, yeah.
I'm with you. I listen. I am on the side. I believe the club. I do believe the club. Yeah. But on the flip side of that is, what are the clubs supposed to say? Are they supposed to say, well, there's a little bit of truth in it somewhere along the line?
Even if proportionality, this is way over the requirement for anything. A 2-year, even AC Milan. What happened to them last year when they overstayed? Yeah. What happened to them? Right? CAS came in, they negotiated. They said, we'll take 1 year off. Wasn't that what happened?
Yeah.
This is blown out of proportion because of the nature of the success that this club has had over the past 10 years.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. The question would be, hypothetically, if we hadn't been so successful over the last 2 years,
what would happen?
Would any of this really have reared its head again? I don't know. Yeah.
Didn't Wolves? Didn't they feel FFP? What happened to them? Leicester, didn't they feel FFP? What happened to them?
Yeah.
What happened to them?
Yeah.
What type of FFP? Let's look at Paris Saint-Germain. You buy 2 players for £300 million. Where's your revenue for that?
Yeah.
Why is
a man on the board?
Why isn't debt part of FFP? United have an increase in debt. Why isn't FFP looking at that?
But FFP
they had a man on the board.
We know that.
Yeah, but not only that, PSG got round like we know with the Neymar deal. They were very shady on it. They did find loopholes in certain things to get round it in a way. That's why.
Yeah, Neymar paid a bunch of his thing.
He bought himself out of his own contract, Neymar, so it never went onto PSG's books. They were very clever around it. I'm going to be.
And then
is that not
a loan deal?
Is that not something City have been trying to do? Be very clever.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Al.
They have.
I'm going to be honest.
Creative accounting.
Go on, get it out.
No, I'm just saying, the more I hear about it and the more I'm thinking about it, I'm less confident now that City are fully innocent in all of it. I'm going to be honest, and Alan made a great point. This is total catastrophe if it happens, especially where we are right now. You've got Aguero in his last year of his deal. You've got Sane going out the door. We are not going to be in a position to rebuild that team again. We're going to be stuck. So, and I'm going to be honest with you. I love Pep to death. Pep isn't going to stay. He can pay all the lip service he wants. He will not stay.
I don't agree.
I think the Pep thing and everything is like it's a side issue and everything, and even the players staying is a side issue really, because at the end of the day, we've got to think that this appeal is coming. I'm hoping and praying in my own thoughts. I'm hoping and praying that CAS actually look at it objectively and go, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. We're not accepting that. We're not accepting this as evidence. You can have a fine for being a little bit sort of bolshy with UEFA, and you can do this, and that's it. It's done with. Do I think that will happen? Probably not. I've got a feeling they'll push it back to UEFA. UEFA and City will dance around, do a tango in circles for 2-3 months, and the problem being is that we might finish this season's Champions League, and God forbid we win it. And
it's not going to happen now.
We are going to be we are going to not be in next season's competition, because if City appeal it, whatever UEFA is basically say to Sefrin and the adjudicatory chamber, you know, bollocks to you, I'm going to take it to the Court of Human Rights. Well, UEFA could. I know UEFA probably don't want it going that far because it could expose everything. But, well, that means we're not going to the Court of Human Rights until 2021 at the earliest. That means we are not going to be in next season. We're not going to be in next season's Champions League. So that is 1 year, but we'll still have a 2-year ban unless there's some agreement. So we are literally still banned for 2 years until we appeal it at the Court of Human Rights. So next season we won't be in the Champions League, which adds loads of other financial pressures with sponsorships and everything else. And so, you know, it's a fine. I mean, I'm just hoping and praying that City really are squeaky clean. Well, I'm not sure whether they are, but they've been creative, like Alan said. I think they've been creative in some of the stuff that they've done. Is that against FFP and the concept of breaking rules? I don't know, because I'm not a financial lawyer expert.
What I will say, Andy, is I feel sorry for the finance people at the club, not just the CFO, but the people that are working in the accounts department, okay, that work with the figures day in, day out. You basically call them frauds and cheats. I feel sorry for them.
Well, somebody is making decisions somewhere along the line, aren't they? Somebody is signing off on these things, and like you said, you know, if it turns out that way, then heads will roll. They will roll because they will have been proven to have done something that is financially irregular that you're not allowed to do. So I mean, it is just a horrible one, and I was always one that thinking, let's just get it done and dusted early. Let's get it out there. The more I'm thinking about it now, I'm thinking the actual complications of everything when this comes out. God. If CAS go down one route, which is throw it back to UEFA, which I've got a feeling it might do.
I agree with you.
What's City's next step? You know, is it like, okay, we'll take a year and then we are guilty? Or is it bollocks to you, we're not taking a year again, we've already compromised and got screwed again on this one. So we'll take it to the Court of Human Rights, which means another 12 months and we're not in the Champions League next season. And all the ramifications of that. Somebody else wanted to jump in there. I apologise. Somebody?
Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of agree with what Martin said just before. Whereas I think City probably are partially guilty on breaking the FFP laws, but my main problem is that I think the FFP laws are bullshit.
But that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
Yeah, but that's kind of what goes into my thoughts of wanting us to take it a lot further than just CAS, because I think we probably have broken a couple laws here and there because of the way they are, and I think that it's essentially just corruption from UEFA.
Well, if that's the case, though, and we've broken the rules are there to be. We're guilty.
We need to follow the rules.
You can't. And this is the argument that opposition fans have and their core argument is, well, the rules are there, and if you've broken them, it doesn't matter how big a club you are and how much money you've got if you've broken them, because that's basically correct. You know, if the rules are there and you've broken them. Now, if they've been clever and creative with their accounting, that's something different that might be argued upon in an interpretation of how you get around different things. But Chris, Karl, Chris was just coming in early. Chris?
So, just to add on to what's just been said, is that I think where the club stand is that we've been done for this already, right? And we had an agreement with UEFA.
Yeah. All
right, it wasn't written in stone, which it should have been. You know, that's our fault, really.
Yeah.
And that's where our stance is. Now, when UEFA said they were going to charge us with it, Ferran came out and did a fairly lengthy interview saying we have done nothing wrong. Now, Ferran's not a stupid man. He's a very, very clever man. I don't think he would have said that if he thought we had anything of consequence to answer. Where our issue lies is the impartiality of CAS. That is where we need to have very good lawyers, because we have got a good argument. We have been done for it once before. We've paid our dues and complied with FFP. And also City's argument is that they shouldn't be. They didn't have the jurisdiction to look further back than 2016, 17, I think it was, and after.
Yeah.
So have UEFA overstepped? Have they actually not done things properly? So City might have a really good argument. The problem is City are sticking to this confidentiality thing because it's their big issue on point 2 about the leaks. So we don't really know what City's argument is because they're keeping stum, and rightly so. I'd hope, and I'm pretty sure they have got very competent people, behind them. I think if Varane has come out and said we have done nothing wrong, as fans we should believe him, because since they've come, the Abu Dhabi takeover, and since Varane and Cheeky came, they've brought nothing but success to this club, and the club has been run ultra professionally ever since they come. That can't be said of City's history, of being run as well as they are now. Yeah. So, I'd be very surprised if Varane has come out and been comprehensive in his denial of anything happening, for him then to have egg thrown on him. It doesn't seem right.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I mean, oh God, yeah, so do I. I absolutely, I've always been on the side of the fact that the statement that he made, but then I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and go, well, if this, suddenly one day you are Ferran Soriano, and on this day, UEFA make an announcement that they are the adjudicatory chamber are charging City with a 2-year ban and a £60 million fine, blah, 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 blah. And all of the world's press are going, well, we need a statement. What's your statement? City are not going to go, oh, no, we're not saying anything. What would they say in that statement? Because they're not going to come out going, well, we think that's harsh, and we think there is something in it, but of course they're going to come out fighting, aren't they? They're going to,
Yeah, but let's not also forget that they had the meetings with Infantino, to try and make a deal before this got anywhere.
Yeah.
So we had that opportunity to negate a ban way before this happened. So we're obviously confident that we've done nothing wrong, and I think we're also really annoyed with the fact they've come back with something.
But that was Infantino who's moved on to FIFA, and now we've got Seferin at UEFA.
We should have got it in writing, though, shouldn't we?
We should. Yeah.
And the thing is, here we've got to remember is the reason why I think I'm worried. I'm more worried than what I was, because I know somebody who works in the airline business, and you probably know this. Obviously, we got what, 400 million pound sponsorship deal for Etihad.
It wasn't even making profit.
Yeah, it wasn't even making a profit. It was absolutely. I mean, I think Arsenal signed a £90 million one with Emirates over 15 years for theirs, which included shirt sponsorship as well. And then City are throwing 400 million Etihad
I don't know
with an airline that isn't even making profit at the time.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of businesses invest in things when they're not making profit. It doesn't mean say that it's
not
dodgy.
400 million.
Not 400 million when Emirates doing 90 million.
Well, it does if you've got like $7-8 billion worth of aircraft in your possession.
Well,
there's your collateral.
Because I've got a family member who works for Etihad, so I know. And I went and spoke to him and said, "Tell me about what is." And even they.
And what did they say? Who were they? Who were these people who said this? That.
Well, I can't.
What did they say?
I don't want to go into it. It's a family member.
Can't reveal his sources.
It's a family.
Well, yeah. No. What about? What did they say?
They basically said 400 million for Etihad was, in their opinion, way over market value.
Are they a footballing lawyer? Are they like a lawyer for Etihad or something?
No, they work for Etihad. So
what?
So
I think to be honest.
So that's like going asking somebody who works for Sainsbury's about a business deal that Sainsbury's do, and go, "What do you think about that?" And they go, "Oh God, bloody hell, that's take
that out of the equation. Emirates 90 million for Arsenal. Why are Emirates 90?
Yeah, but when was that? When was that?
No, but that was a while back.
Very early on. That was
a while back.
Also, Andy, just to point out
I'll check.
just to point out, the reason Etihad is losing money is because of the investment in Air Berlin, which is right after the whole Etihad first place. So they were making money before that. Yeah. So that argument falls.
They were losing money at the time when they
but they own about $4 or $5 billion worth of aircraft. The collateral is huge.
See, this all comes down.
So you can invest in something. You don't have to be. You don't have to be making. You don't. Yeah, but you don't have to. Well, market value is the market value, not about the airline. The market value is about the footballing. That's what the market value is. It's not about what the person who's invested in. You don't look at me and go, I tell you what, I don't make any profit whatsoever, but I'll give you 50 quid. And they go, well, you're not making any money. And I'm going, yeah, but Martin is. Martin's making loads of money. He's really successful. So I just want to invest 50 quid. Oh, no, but you don't make any money, so you can't invest in it. It's not about how much money I make. If I can invest 50 quid in your business and you're really successful, I can invest what I like in it. I could borrow that money like United do.
Yeah, but exactly. But you can't come to me and go, I've only got 50 quid, but I'm going to sponsor you for 200 million.
I could do it. I could do it if I get a £200 million loan.
On the Emirates.
Well, hold on a minute. United do that. They everything is leveraged against United. What's wrong? What's different with what the Glazers did?
Well, United and their finances.
Ryan, shush a minute. What's different? What's different between me being the Glazers and borrowing from hedge funds across the world $1 billion and investing it into Man United? What's the difference in that? They didn't have £1 billion to invest in United, but they borrowed the money to invest in it. So what's different? Yeah, but it's not about what you agree with. It's about what you can do.
But I know what you can do. But don't we all criticise the Glazers for doing that?
Okay, so tell me how Liverpool can have £70 million shirt sponsors a year, £70 million a year shirt sponsors.
I'm not exactly. It is a strange one. I'm not saying.
Well, it's not strange. It's just that's the market value.
Yeah, but what the argument UEFA are saying is the overinflation of the market value.
But over this is the whole thing. No, you're making a good point, but the good point is the Etihad thing is irrelevant because Etihad could say, well, I'll tell you what, we think it's a worthwhile investment to promote the business of Etihad Airways and borrow 400 million and give it to Man City because we'll promote it across the planet. There's 7-8 clubs. It's a massive global investment. We can recoup $1 billion back off that investment. Right. That's just simple business.
Andy, weren't you shocked when it came out in the press, when it was announced that we got 400 million? You're not telling me you weren't shocked at the amount, because I was. I couldn't believe it.
Well, no, because didn't somebody get 300 million the year before?
Yeah.
I thought 400 million was just there or thereabouts.
So, Andy,
you just think it'd be going up in this sort of scale the business is at the moment, the footballing industry,
Andy,
in 2018, Emirates sponsored extended for 5 years with Arsenal for around 200 million.
There you go.
So, Andy,
I'm trying to find what they did in 2006. Yeah.
So Amazon's probably one of the richest companies in the world. Amazon's first profit was 2001. They started business in 1994.
Yeah.
So
there you go. So it took them 7 years to even make a profit. That's just business.
Yeah, but that's
most companies don't make a profit for 3-4 years easily.
I understand what you're saying, but the problem is where we've got the problem with the argument is we're going into UEFA going. You all right?
Sorry.
He's pulled his thing out.
I apologise.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm not my lead out then. Sorry. Go on, Martin. I apologise.
I understand what you're saying, and I fully do understand it. Please let me get that point straight. But what I'm saying is UEFA are going to argue to us. I know you're saying they could have gone alone, but UEFA are going to turn around and go, show me the profit Etihad were making at the time. Let me see the value of your company.
But that's irrelevant.
It won't be to UEFA.
It's totally irrelevant. It don't matter what UEFA think. It's irrelevant.
Of course it matters what UEFA think. They're the ones doing us.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
It is irrelevant.
Etihad have got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, the sponsorship of Etihad. It's the inflation of Etihad. So we can't say Etihad have no.
Let's not talk over each other. Go on. Sorry, Martin, Alan, go on. We've got two minutes left of this, so go on.
All right. UEFA can't ask for evidence from Etihad of their accounts. They're not entitled to.
Exactly, because they've got nothing to do with it. It's Manchester City and the Etihad's investment. It's nothing to do with the Etihad as a company. It's nothing to do with them.
Correct.
And the evidence has come from hacked emails, hasn't it? So
exactly.
That's their evidence.
Oh, yeah, that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, Tom, that's the argument, Tom.
Yeah.
That's the argument. If I choose to sponsor you for $1 billion, that's my business. It's not that's nothing to do with you.
Exactly. Well, you're right. It's whether they can prove the connection came from Sheikh Mansour.
Correct.
That's the issue. That's the core of it.
Correct.
That's the core of it. And whether it's his cousin that owns Etihad or runs Etihad.
Yeah,
if he can prove, if UEFA and CAS can prove that the money has been redirected via Sheikh Mansour through to his cousin and Etihad and into City, then we're guilty. So,
and that's going to be very, very difficult to try and.
They're going to have to prove how Mansour and his cousin were able to
exactly,
which is none of their business.
Exactly.
If I'm not mistaken, the wording in one email from the ex-CFO at the time and Pierce was, "His Highness will take care of this." Is basically what the email says. Which, reading that, you'd understand why they ask questions.
Which
but which one? It was his. It was the
exactly
the other guy, not Sheikh Mansour.
In 2014, when that original fine came out and restrictions on the Champions League players, at that point UEFA ordered an independent valuation of our sponsorship deal, which was conducted by PwC and was valued at £350 million. So that is the end of that subject. As simple as that. An independent auditor came in and valued that sponsorship deal at 350, and it was downsized to 350, not 400.
I think that just brings us to the end of part one, because there you go.
Absolutely.
So perfect ending, but you can see what we're discussing. I mean, there are so many variants in this. Over the CAS appeal and everything that's going to happen. I think you'll all have your own opinions. You'll all have your own feelings, whether it be like many of us thinking, go and stick it to UEFA. Let's take them all the way to the Court of Human Rights and just ban FFP and get rid of it and prove UEFA for what we know they are, which they've already been proven to be, have individuals who are corrupt within the system. We know that, and that's on record. So I don't need to caveat that point. But to the point of you're reading sort of independent lawyers who are experts in this area saying that City potentially, could struggle with CAS, but I guess it's all dependent on what happens next on the 8th of June when the hearing is going to commence. But anyway, don't forget, give us your comments below, because that was a really, really interesting debate. Everybody having some very, very valuable points there on it. And like I said, we're no financial experts, but everyone's got a point of view, an argument. But give us your thoughts below this video. Don't forget, subscribe, hit that bell icon. That way you'll be notified. This is the end of part one of the Friday Night Social. We'll be back. Check it out tomorrow. You'll see another video, which will be part two, where we'll be talking about that horrendous third kit. But anyway, take care. This is Andy from Man City Fan TV, and we'll see you soon.